When people search things like, why do I feel empty even though life is fine? It's because of a grief that is hard to name, a grief that doesn't have a socially acceptable explanation. It's grief for the unlived life. Psychology and depth psychology both recognize this experience. Carl Jung referred to the unlived life as the parts of the psyche that were never allowed expression, talents that were postponed, paths that were not taken, versions of yourself that were set aside in order to survive or belong or succeed. As long as life is busy, this grief remains dormant, but when stability arrives, it wakes up. Existential psychology explains this through what is called existential grief. This is grief not for what was lost, but what was never lived. Irvin Yalom, one of the leading figures in existential psychotherapy, wrote extensively about this kind of quiet sorrow that emerges when people confront time, choice, and mortality. This grief intensifies in midlife for a reason. Time becomes visible, the future feels shorter, and the cost of earlier choices becomes clearer. This does not mean that those choices were wrong, it means they had trade-offs. Another framework that helps here is narrative identity theory. Psychologist Dan McAdams explains that humans make meaning by constructing life stories. When the story you are living no longer reflects who you are becoming, emotional dissonance appears. That dissonance often feels like grief. Here is the important distinction. This grief is not asking you to undo your life. It is asking you to acknowledge what was never named. Suppressed grief does not disappear. It leaks out as irritability, restlessness, numbness, or self-doubt. So here is a small but powerful practice. Not a solution, a first step. Take a piece of paper, divide it into two columns. On the left, write parts of me that had to wait. On the right, write ways that still might be expressed now. Do not aim for action, only recognition. The list on the left may look like creativity, autonomy, adventure, learning, play. This exercise is grounded in meaning-centered therapy, influenced by Viktor Frankl's work. Meaning does not require a life overhaul. The first step is just acknowledgement. When grief for the unlived life is named, it begins to soften. It becomes information instead of this weight. In this series, we are not rushing toward answers. We are building clarity step by step. If this grief resonates, stay with it. It is not a problem to eliminate. It is a message asking to be heard. And listening, quietly and honestly, is a step forward. Let's keep talking. Here to help you design a bold life. Like and subscribe if I made sense.